Good morning. Welcome to the November 13th, 2024 Board of Sanitary Commissioners meeting for the Muncie Sanitary District. I hope everyone's well. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask if you'll rise if able and follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for that. Roll call. There are no excused absences. All 5 commissioners are present. Therefore, we have a quorum, and we will proceed with the agenda as posted, starting off with the consideration of the October 30th board meeting minutes. These were distributed previously by Maggie. Nice job as always. Any comments or corrections? If not, I would accept a motion to approve as submitted.
So moved.
It's second.
I have a motion from Adam, second by David. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the same. Any abstentions? The minutes are approved and will be posted to our site following today's meeting as usual. Next on the agenda is the Register of Claims. This meeting totaling $641,726.75. The claims were sent out previously with some explanations, which I appreciate. Anybody wishing to clarify any of the claims for the benefit of the public?
Yeah, I'll touch on one on page 13. There's a $23,107.25 charge from Christopher Burt. This is for our tieback levee design, which is ongoing. This is probably primarily driven by some environmental work that we had to do for the Corps. I think that might be the biggest claim on this set, but I figured I'd just touch that one.
Anyone else? I'll point out, I've pointed this out for a couple of months now on page 3, East Central Recycling, so disposal, household disposal, parks, etc. At ECR, we paid $78,161.55. And then we also had, I believe, some tipping fees in here that went to, yeah, here we are on page 6, sweeper dumping fees there of $4,149.38. Any other discussion on the claims? If not, I would accept a motion to approve the claims as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Tim, second by Adam. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the same. Any abstentions? Claims are approved and will be posted. Thanks to Commissioner Tim for pointing out I skipped the public comment section. I knew we added one at the end after the public meeting. So if there's anybody that would like to make public comment before we get into the new business agenda, they can approach the podium, state your name and add just your name for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes. Seeing no interest, we'll proceed on with the agenda. District Administrator update from Rick Conrad.
Good morning. Rick Conrad, District Administrator. Short list this week. We have no traffic closures or restrictions at this time. We did seal an additional CSO last week, CSO 13, so that one will eventually here be removed from our permit, bringing us down to a total of 9 remaining. We are well into leaf season. We expect this is going to continue for at least another 3 to 4 weeks. So we're just reminding people, as always, continue to set your bagged leaves out by your trash on your trash day. Make sure it is separated from your normal trash, though, so it's clear. And do not put them in your toter, please. Also, we do have more rain in the forecast, so do your best to help keep leaves out of your storm drains. Probably our number one cause of these intermittent flooding issues is leaves getting caught up in the storm drain. So this is the time of year when that's pretty important to keep an eye on your drains. And then we are also collecting old pumpkins. So if anybody has any old pumpkins, they're still waiting to dispose of from Halloween. But we do still have those bins set up, Jason. Is that correct? Okay. Westside Park, McCulloch Park, and Haltman Park. And do you know when that will be picked up? When they'll be ending? Okay. So for 1 month total. So end of end of November, those will be picked up. And then I was going to add, this is not on the claims yet, but we are now receiving credits for our natural gas usage. And for the first month for October, we will be receiving $6,500 in credits for our natural gas usage. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to field them now.
Thank you, Rick. Aaron, comments or questions?
No questions. Thank you, Rick.
Tim?
No questions. Thank you.
Adam?
Nope.
David?
Just a quick comment. Congratulations to both of you and Jason Donati on that Ringe project and getting that $6,500 for us a month.
No comments or questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Department head update. Today we have none. Under old business, we don't have anything listed on the agenda. Aaron, any old business you'd like to bring up?
Do not have any. Thank you.
Tim?
No.
Adam?
Nope.
David?
No.
None for me either. Under new business, we have 3 items on the agenda for today. The first item is an amendment to the build, operate, transfer agreement. I believe GM Development and Bowen Engineering will be presenting today.
Good morning, Board.
Morning.
My name is Greg Martz. I'm with GM Development, and I just have a very brief presentation for you today. I believe this is, I think, the 7th time I've been in front of you with this project, and thank you very much for allowing us to come back and talk about this and hopefully finalize the project today. Just for a brief history for those who may not have been at the previous meetings, there was a request for proposals that was sent by the board in July of 2020, which we responded to, and it was looking at potential solar and sewer improvements that were undefined at the time of the RFQ. So we entered into then a scoping period that lasted until well into 2021. We actually presented the first results of that scoping period in May and then again in June of 2021. At that time, we were still looking at finalizing the scope, but the city's financial advisors had talked about the potential of interest rates increasing, and so we then closed on a financing in July of 2021 in order to lock that rate in, which, again, as a reminder, which I know we've talked about in the past, is 2.75%. So obviously ended up being very good advice since rates are more than double that now. Then earlier this year, the solar component of that project was approved by the board, and so that both cost and scope has already been locked in. We at that time had preliminarily talked about the remainder of the scope, which was the sewer portion, which is the South Levee tieback project. But at that point, it was at early design. Design has continued through the summer, and what we had promised you at that time is once design was complete enough that we could come back and deliver a guaranteed price, that we would do that, and that time is now. Design has progressed well, and I've got great news for you, which is the number that we had presented to you in May of this year is still valid. The design has gone perfectly along with that presented budget that we had presented then, and so what we're asking you to do today is simply approve the budget that we had previously responded, now knowing that we're willing to move forward and guaranteeing that price. And so if you do vote to move forward with the project, the costs are guaranteed. We will not be coming back for you for more money under any circumstance, and we'll move forward with the project as soon as we can. Thank you very much, and I'll answer any questions that you may have.
Yep. Thank you, Greg. Aaron, comments or questions?
No questions.
Tim?
No questions.
Adam?
No questions, just comments. This is the scope of the agreement is particular to levee work, so this is what the scope amendment is basically going to do in addition to the solar that we approved earlier this year. We're quite familiar with Bowen. We have a good relationship with them. This work is required to basically keep our levee system certified or moving toward certification, whichever way you want to look at it. Obviously, at 2.75% interest, the money we borrowed is basically worth more at that than we can currently borrow with inflation. So, pretty good deal all the way around. So, it's just some color commentary. Thanks, Greg.
David?
No questions.
Pretty amazing that we're able to hold the price with inflation going like it is. Joe, could I ask you to come up? Joe had pointed out maybe some language, potential adjustments. I believe it was on page 2. as it relates to the language, final project site.
Sure. Joe Retz, attorney for the district from Defer Varan. This is a pretty important one, so I'm glad I get to be up here to talk about it. On the second page, section 2 in the definitions, the definition for final premises. If you want to just add in the word final before the word project, so it says shall mean the completed project on the final project site, as opposed to just the project site. That is literally it. So, any questions for that one?
Nope. So just so I'm clear, on the bold final premises shall mean the completed project on the final project site depicted in Exhibit B.
Yep. It's a pretty minor change, but one that when you're talking defined terms, there, all these capitalized terms in here, you have final project site versus project site. You might get confused thinking, well, what's the project site versus the final project site? So, pretty simple.
Okay, thank you, Joe.
Yep.
Greg, could I? And if you can't answer right now, I understand. You have any concerns with the changing of that language?
Nope, that's perfect, and that was my mistake, so I appreciate Joe catching that. So, looks great.
Okay.
Motion to amend?
Yes.
Second.
A motion to amend from Aaron, a second from Tim. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the same. Any abstentions? The amendment is approved.
Thank you very much, Board.
Number 2 on our agenda today under new business is the long-term control plan presentation from Tim Healy. Hi, Tim.
Does this need approval? Do we need to vote on that?
Joe,
I think we do.
clarifying question. So we amended the language and we
Then we have
voted
to
to approve it. Did
Just
that
have to
approve the entire amendment or do we need to?
Yeah, the way you phrased it sounds like it did.
We approved the whole thing. Is that what you're saying?
I just made a motion to amend, but I didn't make
typically
a
The final.
motion to
You would
approve
have to make a motion to.
To approve.
as
as
amended.
amended.
Okay.
Yeah.
Accept a motion to approve as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Adam, second by David. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the same. Any
Abstain.
abstentions?
Abstain.
One abstention, thank you. So 4 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 abstention. Thank you. Tim?
Good morning. Tim Healy with TY Lin. Thank you for taking a few minutes. Wanted to give a presentation to the board and the general public to provide an update on ongoing negotiations related to the combined sewer overflow long-term control plan. We'll do this briefly, but the purpose of the meeting is to really, for the general public and for everyone here, to give an update in terms of, what is a long-term control plan, why is it important, a history kind of where we've been, past projects, current projects, future projects, and then also the ongoing negotiations with the Indiana Department of Environmental Management, and then the cost and schedule implications. So, update on the update on the combined sewer overflow long-term control plan. Negotiations to date to try and reduce the cost of this unfunded mandate and future projects. So, you all are probably very familiar with this already, but, just in general, what is a CSO? Essentially, when Muncie was founded in 1865, this was state-of-the-art technology. It helped to get both the rainwater out of a community and also the sewage out of a community, gets to the rivers, protects public health, and again, was state-of-the-art technology at one point in time. So essentially what it means is that, rainwater from the street goes into your catch basins, inlet goes into the same sewer pipe underground as, showers, toilets, sinks, which works great during dry weather, but then during wet weather, you can get too much rainwater going in, you get an overflow, and that goes into, White River, Buck Creek, because the pipes going to your treatment plant only have so much capacity, treatment plant only has so much capacity. Very, very common for communities of that age. I like this map shows all those black dots are other communities that are in the exact same ballpark. So really it's any community that was founded, middle 1800s towards, early 1900s. So heavy Midwest, heavy East Coast, and then a few sprinklings along the West Coast. So the long-term control plan is the plan to address these combined sewer overflows. How do you reduce them to a level that's approvable by the state and in turn by the federal EPA? Again, it's an unfunded mandate, but the key is that it keeps us on a path to achieve compliance with the Clean Water Act. So it keeps us out of things like a federal consent decree or anything that could be more onerous or more challenging. So the importance of the long-term control plan, big picture, you're reducing the number of times these CSOs overflow and the volume when they overflow of the amount of combined sewage that's getting into our local waterways. It also gives us an opportunity to replace aging and failing infrastructure. Because, some of these big pipes underground they're almost 100 years old, if not older in some instances. And they've served us well for a long time. Plan would also help to enhance and protect the environment by catching that first flush. Like when the rain first occurs, you're getting the most concentrated wastewater to the plant, to your wetland storage at the treatment plant, and then helping to make sure that what does overflow is more the dilute rainwater towards the latter part of a overflow event. And just for reference, this figure gives you a rough overview of the different CSO basins in the community. So you can see there are a couple like CSO 15 in the purple, CSO 22 in that light green are two just really, really big areas. So as you can imagine, the projects to deal with those are going to be much more larger, more complex than, like we heard earlier today that CSO 13 was sealed, which is great. But you can see how small the area is that contributes to CSO 13 versus, say, 15 or 22, just to give it a frame of reference. History of Muncie's long-term control plan. So starting back in the late 90s, projects were underway, things like striving towards commitment with like 9 minimum controls and CSO, federal CSO policy, 1994, 1995. An initial plan was developed in 2002, sent into the state. The community kept doing work, kept making progress. That plan was tweaked a couple of times, and then in 2011, that plan was actually approved. From 2011 to roughly 2020, again, a lot of improvements were made. Essentially $90 million was spent to combat CSO in this community. In 2022, there was an effort to revise the plan, kind of tailor it now that you were about 10 years into it. It's okay, what do you do to make sure the rest of the plan performs well moving forward? Flow monitors were put into the collection system to monitor the system performance. The sewer system model was recalibrated. And in 2024, a updated plan has been submitted to IDEM for the review and approval. That's an ongoing process right now, but the meetings thus far have been fairly promising. There's a lot of info on this slide, but in essence, what this is showing is the improvement to date. So you've got all the CSOs, then you've got 2011. So that's how much the volume of combined sewage that was overflowing from the system in an average year in 2011. In 2024, you can see that number's gone down significantly. From like 1,700 to about 400. So a very, very large improvement in the volume of sewage that's getting to our rivers during wet weather events. But in that last column, you can see that some of the remaining CSOs are still overflowing pretty regularly. 15, 28, even as many as 60 times a year. And we need to get that number reduced to be in compliance and have the state kind of buy in with our plan. So now just kind of touch on a few of those past projects. You guys are probably more familiar with these than just about anybody, but separation was done around CSO 7 on Wheeling. That, on average reduced about 11 million gallons of sewage in an average year that was getting to the river. CSO9 improvements, again, separation in that community reduced overflow volumes by about 7 million gallons in an average year. CSO23 improvements, to the south along Hoyt, just north of Buck Creek there, those were pretty impactful, 18 million gallons of reduction in an average year. And then the work through downtown over the years was a lot of good work done there, complex. And because it's in downtown, you can imagine, it's a lot of parking lots, roofs. So when that water hits, it doesn't really have anywhere to go except into the sewer. So as a result, it's harder to do, it's more expensive, but it also has a lot of impact. So, the work here reduced overflow by almost 70 million gallons in an average year. So challenging, but very impactful. There have also been a lot of important projects at the treatment plant, the wetland, the storage facility there, but then also just a lot of good groundwork has been laid at the plant to allow that to be expanded into the future. The current long-term control plan would require us to go to 0 overflows in an average year. Rick and Adam and others of the team have been helping us to negotiate with the state to significantly reduce that. We've had meetings with the state where they have not pushed back very hard on the idea of us going to 8 overflows in an average year, which is tremendous, because what this graph is trying to show us is that 8 is the most cost-effective place for us to stop doing work, because you can do work, get a good return on your investment, but as you go to 7, 6, 4, 3, 2, the curve gets very steep. So we're spending a lot more money, but not getting a lot of benefit for those costs. And as you can see from this, with the investment to date, if we were to go to 0, this could be north, $550 million of capital that could be required to get to that, and have very little benefit to the community. So the team's working very hard to try and negotiate to stay at that 8 overflow level of control so that we can capture tremendous cost savings, but still be responsible to the environment, reduce level of overflows, but also be responsible to ratepayers as well. With this 8 overflow plan that's been proposed, if we start at the treatment plant and kind of work out, the key is that we would build on the smart investments to date and expand the capacity of the treatment plant to 60 MGD. That's very helpful, because then you can capture a lot more flow, you can push it through your plant, can treat it cost effectively. Also expand the pumping capacity into the wetland that's already there. What's nice about that is just by being able to pump more water faster, you can eliminate overflows, because sometimes that peak flow to your plant is very, very high, and you could have an overflow even when you've got storage available, just because you can't pump the water fast enough. And then this like lime green line is trying to show the Kilgore interceptor. It's something that's been talked about for a very long period of time. But essentially, that's going to provide storage and conveyance for flow from your treatment plant up into the city, past CSO 27 and past CSO 15. And those are the major backbones of this plan. Essentially, you've got the work at the treatment plant, and then you've got this extension up into the plant that allows all these CSOs to be captured and their overflow volumes significantly reduced. Talked about sealing CSO 13, so that's already on the way, and then continuing the separation that's been done at CSO 7, CSO 28, CSO 23, and then it calls for a storage tank at CSO 22 as well. Even though we're trying to reduce the number of overflows and in turn the cost, this is still a very large burden, an unfunded mandate on the community. So with this 8 overflow plan, the total capital cost that could be required, is on the order of $157–160 million. Again, tremendously less than if we were at the current 0 overflow level of control, but still a very significant cost. the teams worked to develop an initial schedule that's been, shared with the state. This is not agreed to by the state, but this was the plan was to try and stagger these improvements to provide continuous improvement, but also to spread out the cost of all these projects so that there is a somewhat uniform distribution of these costs across this schedule. We're also striving to negotiate for an additional 5 years on the schedule. That may be a challenge, but that's what we're striving for, just so that we can, again, spread those costs out and help to reduce the burden on the community. Tried to go through that somewhat quickly to give you all an overview. Are there any questions or comments or things folks would like to discuss?
Thank you, Tim. Aaron?
You mentioned CSO 22 storage was, looked from my point of view about $27 million in construction costs there. Is that above ground? Would that be a below ground basin or?
At this point, it's anticipated that it would be a below-ground basin. So it would be a very large hole,
Yep.
and then like a cast-in-place concrete tank below ground.
Okay, and that would be combined going into that. That would not be just storm or just.
Exactly.
Okay,
Mhm.
that's all I have. Thank you.
Tim?
Absolutely.
You may not know the answer to this, and that's okay if you don't. Last year, the Supreme Court overruled the Chevron doctrine, which mandates deference to
Yes.
the EPA. So this is an unfunded mandate. So with the repeal of the Chevron doctrine, there's some standing in court that we wouldn't have otherwise. The communities that are looking into trying to minimize some of the cost, what are their chances in court on challenging some of these unfunded mandates?
That one is probably, I know the case, was excited to see the result, but exactly what that does for us, I'm not sure I could answer perfectly for you.
Sure. Thank you.
Anything else?
No.
Adam?
No questions. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
David?
No questions for me. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Yep, no questions from me either. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Anybody wishing to make public comment on the presentation from Greeley and Hanson? Then I will note that we have another public input or informational meeting tonight at 6 o'clock at Minnetrista. So anybody that was unable to attend today's meeting due to the timing can come to Minnetrista tonight at 6 o'clock, and the same presentation will be available. I do know that there are a couple of board members that'll be there, and of course Greeley and Hanson will be there to answer any questions. Any other new business, Aaron, that you'd like to add today?
I do not have any new.
Tim?
Not today.
Adam?
No.
David?
No.
Any additional board topics, Aaron?
Not this time, Mr.
Tim?
President.
No.
Aaron? Adam?
Just want to go out and say it's been a pretty good year. The year's not ended by any means, but we're kind of wrapping up some things budget-wise, and our department heads have kind of buckled down and made some tough decisions, and have worked pretty hard on some of our continuous improvement efforts, and some of that's bearing fruit, and that we're going to be able to do a few things here at the end of the year that we didn't initially anticipate being able to do. So I appreciate basically everybody just kind of buckling down and seeing their way through it. So all the department heads, great job, and of course good job to everybody at the district for continuing to do great things for the community. Thank y'all.
David?
Nothing to add. Thank you.
So, first off, Veterans Day was on Monday, so I'd like to recognize all the veterans that work in the sanitary district and do the important work of the people every day, but also thanks for your service, and a general thank you to all the veterans out there. Want to make the public aware, you've probably seen a little bit of work going on out at engineering and sewer maintenance out there, busting up some concrete. We're going to put a building up to house equipment indoors, so we don't have to worry about theft, which we've experienced, and makes it easier for us to mobilize on a quicker basis in the mornings during the winter time. So we're building a building out there, be about a 72-foot square building, and that'll be going up here pretty soon. Also, Rick mentioned leaf pickup. Leaf pickup is it's a nice service that the district provides to the community. Probably see some changes coming in that for next year. Leaf pickup is an ever expanding challenge. You'll probably see a requirement for paper bags coming in the future, not this year, so don't panic. I'm just trying to socialize the concept and give people plenty of heads up so nobody can say, hey, you didn't tell us. The reason for that is with paper bags, we can pick it up with mechanical equipment. The paper bags today have to be handled and we have to rip them apart. We find all kinds of contraband in those, which can lead to health and safety concerns for the employees, specifically syringes. Show up in these in the trash sometimes. So just fair warning, you'll be seeing some changes to the leaf pickup program in the future. Also, for our in-house construction, we've been expanding that over the last couple of years, buying more equipment, putting on more people. And the most valuable thing I think that's come out of that, and I just learned this today, and I'm bragging, on the sanitary district, is we did not have to outsource one single job this year for those small construction things, and that helps us keep it tight and in terms of cost and change orders. And I really appreciate the work that Tom and the crew and with Rick's leadership and the leadership before that everybody's done there. I think that's a big service. And, you know, I've had people say, Stephen, you're conservative, why are you expanding government? But this is absolutely a cost savings for the people. So I'm really proud of that one. Other than that, I don't have any additional comments. Our next meeting will be in 2 weeks on Wednesday, November 27th. I would accept a motion to adjourn today's meeting.
So moved.
We have a motion from Adam,
Second motion.
second by Aaron. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the same. Anybody abstain to object to adjourning today? Not today. Meeting adjourned. Everybody have a safe day.